Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Well, we all know what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, okay? That's partly what I'm going to talk about today, but what I want to concentrate on, ladies and gentlemen, are those things that will affect us. And when I say us, I'm speaking from a perspective of living in the United States. Other countries will fall in line with what I'm talking about here as well, and some countries will be affected much worse because they are right near Ukraine or right next to Ukraine and associated with those countries that are, right there against their border. So when I say things that will affect us more, I mean from a perspective of the US and probably Canada as well, unless we decide to put boots on ground, which would be a travesty. But right now, all that people are talking about is the invasion of Russia into Ukraine. And we need to keep our eye on the big picture. Before I get into the main topic of the video, let me just go ahead and talk to you a little bit about why it is, in my opinion, that governments take us to war. I do believe that there was a poll conducted, and I believe that only about 1 in 6 or 7 Americans feel that we should get intertwined in what's going on in the Ukraine. And I've heard that this administration has said that one of our most patriotic duties is to help to defend democracy elsewhere. Well, what about here, ladies and gentlemen? First of all, we're not a democracy. We are a republic that's turned into a democracy, and that's now not even, in my opinion, a democracy. Because when 5 out of 6 people in the United States, 5 out of 6 people that vote in the United States say, we don't want to get entangled in these affairs that's going on in Ukraine and Russia, and the government still gets us entangled because it's us that the government is getting entangled, then we don't have a democracy, even that, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, we are a republic, but we've turned into a democracy, and now I don't even feel we have a democracy. What I think that we have is a pseudo-democracy that is run by an oligarchy. And by what I mean by an oligarchy is a bunch of people at the top that all have the same thing in common. They're all elitists, they're all super wealthy, and they all take care of their buddies. And I don't care what political party you're in. Please show me any time in our history where things have actually gotten better. And I mean the big picture. I do understand that the last administration, we were doing really well. We were getting a lot of jobs. Things were going very well. The price of gas was probably less than half. No, actually, more than less than half of what it is now. Employment was up. Things were going pretty well when you looked at it at its face value. But when you look at the big picture and you look at our national debt, you look at our unfunded liabilities, you look at the laws that were still being passed, all right, that undermined our liberties. In the big picture, things were still not getting better. What I like to say about different administrations is that they're still on the same train, but it just depends at what speed is that train headed towards the wall. So for example, our last administration, they're still on the same train, ladies and gentlemen, whether they want it or not. There is nothing that the president can do to stop what is coming. You have to understand that. So they're still on the same train. Our last administration, the train was rolling a lot slower. Instead of going as fast as it was going because of the administration prior to that, it slowed down, but we're still headed towards that wall. And now with this administration, that train has picked up speed, and it is picking up speed every minute of every day, ladies and gentlemen. Right? So it has nothing to do with politics. The only thing that it has to do with politics is that it is politicians that have gotten us here to where we are today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to show you something that I think it's important for you to know. Let me show you who it is that gets wealthy when we go to war. Because the thing is this, the Federal Reserve, when they start, it all comes down to money. It all comes down to money. When the Federal Reserve starts tapering and when they start increasing interest rates and they start doing quantitative tightening, meaning that they're pulling liquidity out of the economy instead of adding it to the economy, ladies and gentlemen, we will have the biggest crash in the history of mankind. If you think that the last few days is a big deal, just wait until the Federal Reserve finds a reason to go ahead and raise interest rates. And I'm talking about raise interest rates, not 0.25%, not 0.5%. Raise them to a level that makes sense, that makes mathematical sense. Right now we're looking at 7.5% inflation, meaning that your dollar is being devalued at 7.5% every year. In order for things to be put right, the Federal Reserve would have to increase interest rates above 7.5%, or at the very minimum to 7.5%. Think of what that would do to our market and our economy. So the Federal Reserve, ladies and gentlemen, is going to end up owning everything, because their balance sheet is just going to continue to grow. Once they start trying to get their balance sheet to go down because they have to sell all of the junk that they've bought, everything is done. The bond market will explode. The stock market will explode. Our dollar will be worth nothing compared to what it's worth now, which is almost nothing at that. I thought I'd take a look at a couple of stock charts for a couple of the companies that exist within the military industrial complex. And as you can see, this one here is Raytheon Technologies. Well, take a look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Remember that, I guess you can call it mini crash we had back in March, was it, of 2020? Yes, March of 2020. We were at $50 per share for Raytheon. $50 per share. And why is that a key date? March of 2020. Of course, is when all of this nonsense started with this health crisis, but it was the first quarter of this new administration. Now, if you take a look at the last administration, I believe that that president was the first president in a very long time, I don't even remember when, that did not get entangled into any other wars or start any other wars. In fact, he wanted to take us out of the wars that we were fighting, and I believe that during that administration that we got out of Iraq, if I remember right. But look at the price of Raytheon Technologies back then. It was $50 a share. What is it today? Well, take a look at this. $91.78 per share, and it's probably going to go up. It's almost 100% increase, ladies and gentlemen. This right here is why we go to war. We go to war to make these companies filthy rich, number one. We go to war so that the Fed and the government have an excuse to give the people, to give we the people, of why they must continue to print out of thin air money that only exists because of your labor being stolen. That is why we go to war, ladies and gentlemen. Let me show you another one. Here's Northrop Grumman, if that's how you pronounce it. Back around the same time frame that we discussed earlier, $284 per share. And as you can see, today we're sitting at $392. That's roughly 40 to 50% increase in price. Why? Because they know that the job of the elected or selected president at this time, his job is to take us into some kind of a conflict. That was his job. When he was selected to become president, that was his job, to take us to some kind of a conflict. Why? Because these companies need to make money, and they own the government. Same thing with the pharmaceutical companies. Same thing with them. Same story with the pharmaceutical companies. This is Halliburton. Halliburton, back in that same time frame, $5 a share. $5 a share. Why do you think that Halliburton dropped this much in the last previous 4 or 5 years? Let's see how far back we go. Look at this. Look at how high it went. Why do you think it dropped so much to $5? Because things were winding down. But look at where it is now, ladies and gentlemen. $31. That is six-fold increase. 600% over the original price that started back in March of 2020. The job of this administration, ladies and gentlemen, is to take us to war. There's not much that we can do about it because our vote no longer counts. The only thing that we can do, ladies and gentlemen, is what I've been preaching for a long time. We need to get our affairs in order so that when we need our preps, we can have our preps. So that when one day, I'm pretty sure in my lifetime, I can't tell you exactly when, I have an idea of around when, I think it'll be within the next 10 to 15 years. And to some people, you're like, well, how can you predict out that far? It's just what I think. All right, you can think what you want to think, but I think within the next 10 to 15 years. Being that the next 10 years is going to be very bad. It's going to progressively get worse. These companies are going to get richer. We are going to get poorer. The middle class, the working class is going to considerably get poorer and poorer and poorer. Because energy cannot be created. It cannot be destroyed. And as you see the stock market dumping for the last week or so, these companies are going up. They are going up as our stock market is going down. As your pension portfolio is going down, these companies are going up. Oil companies are going up. Banking companies are going up. Military industrial complex is going up. Sorry about that. I had a pop-up come up. But the military industrial companies are going up, ladies and gentlemen. All of these companies are going up. So where is that energy coming from? Well, maybe it's coming from all of those stocks. I think it's about 50 or 60% of all of the stocks that exist have already crashed more than 50% of their top. That's where it's coming from. Where is your retirement portfolio, ladies and gentlemen, invested in? Ask yourself that question. Do you even know? Because if it's not invested in these companies, then yours is probably not going up, but going down. Now, I want to show you some of the things that I'm looking at, because these are the things that are going to affect you and me directly. These are the things that we need to be prepping right now. And like I said earlier, today, later on today, I'm going to go out there and do a prepping haul of some things that I really hadn't thought about getting extra of. But that'll be in a video to come. Record high food prices imminent as edible oils soar. And I know I've covered this before, but this is on top of what I've already talked about, ladies and gentlemen. You remember when I showed you that picture of how much oil had gone up at Costco? In one case, it was 50%. In the other case, it was a little more than 50%, like 60%. This is on top of that. These are the things we need to be looking at, ladies and gentlemen. The things that you're going to need to stay strong. Because what they're doing is they're trying to weaken us. They're trying to make us all poor, except for those very few at the top. And if we keep taking the bait and only looking at things that they want us to look, we're going to let these things pass by us. And then by the time you know it, we're not going to have them when we need them. Or when we do have the opportunity to get them, they're going to be out of our price range. These are the things we need to be looking at, ladies and gentlemen. Edible oil prices soared this week, prompting fears that record high food prices could be imminent. On Wednesday, soybean oil futures in Chicago hit their highest level since 2008. And palm oil, which is an oil, ladies and gentlemen, that is used extensively throughout the food production industry. And palm oil, the commodity used in thousands of food products, jumped to new highs. And look at this, new highs. It's not even a high since this, a high since that. The highest since 2008 and above. So it's all new highs. These are the things, ladies and gentlemen, that we need to be aware of. Not only in food prices or oil prices, but in the price of everything you're going to need. So these oils really affect the price of food that we buy at the supermarket. Okay, now check this out. Right now, crude oil, Brent crude, is at $98, almost $100. I think it went over $100 earlier today, but it's settled down a little bit at about $98. That is going to affect everything about how we live our lives. Not only at the gas pump, but everything. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, that money is energy. Why? Because it takes energy for you to earn that money. You have to give of yourself in order to earn those dollar bills. So when these things go up and your salaries cannot keep up with it, it is your energy that is being stolen from you. So please understand that. That is why this is so important. This is why this is so important, so that you understand that waiting till tomorrow or the day after or next month or next year is only going to cost you more of your freedom. It is what is being stolen from you. Your time is your freedom. Shipping fuel costs, the unseen enemy in the fight against inflation. Oil affects everything. And if Russia is a net exporter of oil, if Russia is a net exporter of wheat, in addition to Ukraine, which is one of the largest wheat exporters in the world, it's going to affect our food prices, and it's going to affect the price of everything. I am always talking about the price of stuff because I love freedom. And the price of things equal your freedom. What do you have to give up of your time to get A, B, or C? Your time is freedom, ladies and gentlemen. Please understand that. And that is what is being stolen from you, is your freedom. Every time they take us to war, every time that we do some kind of proxy war, like it looks like we may be doing now, not sure. I'm not an expert in geopolitics. But every time that the government decides to print more, it takes more of our freedoms away. And this thing about the most patriotic thing you can do is to give up your freedom in order so that others may have it. Ladies and gentlemen, why did we go to Vietnam? It was to fight communism. And look at where we're at today in the United States of America, where we have people that say, yes, communism is the right thing to do. How many lives did we lose in Vietnam? 58,000 plus lives to fight communism. Now we're fighting democracy. How long have we been fighting for democracy for all of these other countries? How many years now? That is the excuse they're using now. It is your patriotic duty to make sure that another country is free while your liberties are being taken away. All right. I'm going to leave it at that right now. We'll talk about this tomorrow during the live stream at 2 p.m. Alaska time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. It'll be our Friday live stream, so I hope to see you then. I've got a whole bunch of short articles that I'm going to go ahead and put up in the Alaska Prepper News channel. So check that channel out. If you haven't checked it out, go to the Alaska Prepper News. I put up at least one article per day where I just read it so that you can either read along or just listen to it at your leisure. And today it looks like I'm going to be putting up several. So I'll be here all day putting up a lot of short articles on that channel because there is a lot to talk about and a lot that people need to see. And I find that it's easier for some people to just click on a button and listen to it as they're driving or as they're doing work in their house. And that channel is doing really well. So thank you to all of you that have subscribed over there. And if you haven't, go check it out. You may like it. Having said that, remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place. And you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. I'm Alaska Prepper. I am out.